by two major world conflicts and political instability here at home. Those stories and more made plenty of headlines over the past 12 months. The White House spending much of 2023 confronting new threats from China. It started in January when a Chinese spy balloon was spotted drifting across North American airspace. It passed through Alaska and the central U.S. before being shot down off the coast of South Carolina. That same week, a Norfolk Southern cargo train carrying toxic chemicals derailed near the town of East Palestine, Ohio, causing a massive fire and a chemical spill, contaminating the town and making some areas uninhabitable. People there say they're still fighting to get the help they need from both Norfolk Southern and the federal government. The rise of artificial intelligence also dominating the headlines last year, beginning with the launch of ChatGPT by OpenAI, a tech startup that partnered with Microsoft to create a game-changing AI language program available to the entire world. But the technology's potential misuse prompted a big new push for AI regulation in Congress. We're expecting some sort of framework to be unveiled next year. The war in Ukraine grinding on for another year. Moscow and Kyiv engaging in back-and-forth battles, mostly contained to the east. While on the diplomatic front, NATO welcomed several new members, and the International Criminal Court issued an arrest warrant for Russian President Vladimir Putin. The pressure on Russia's military prompted the Wagner mercenary group to launch an unprecedented insurrection. Wagner's leader, Yevgeny Prigozhin, taking over a key Russian city in the south before beginning his march to Moscow. The rebellion finally ended when Prigozhin cut a deal with Putin, but he died just a few months later when his plane crashed under mysterious circumstances. In March, yet another political precedent was broken. Donald Trump becoming the first former president to face criminal charges after being indicted by New York prosecutors for allegedly making illegal hush money payments to his former mistress. That indictment followed by three others, including criminal cases related to attempts to overturn the results of the 2020 election and his retention of classified documents in Mar-a-Lago. In April, SpaceX launched the biggest and most powerful rocket ever built. The Starship is almost 400 feet tall. It's designed to be a reusable capsule for manned spaceflight. But in its first test, it exploded only 4 minutes after launch. SpaceX tried again in November, resulting in another explosion minutes after takeoff. It was a big year for unions. In May, the first Hollywood writers' strike in 15 years. Members of the Writers Guild of America walking off the job, calling for more money from streaming services and protections against the use of artificial intelligence.
Shut it down! Shut it down!
2 months later, the Screen Actors Guild followed suit, bringing Hollywood to a halt in the middle of the summer movie season. The strikes were eventually called off after both unions won what they call historic victories against the big studios. Another big union strike hitting the economy hard in September. The United Auto Workers picketing against all three major auto manufacturers for the first time ever. Tens of thousands of workers walked off the job, costing the U.S. economy more than $9 billion. This strike finally ending after 46 days. The UAW claiming a big win with increased wages and better benefits. Plenty of pomp and circumstance this summer at the coronation of King Charles III. The former Prince Charles officially given the crown for the first time in a ceremony that was scaled down due to concerns about the cost to taxpayers. Just 1 month later, a tragedy at sea. The Titan, a deep-sea submarine exploring the wreck of the Titanic, imploded less than 2 hours into a planned 8-hour dive. All 5 people on board were killed instantly. Canada experienced its worst wildfires on record this year. Hundreds of major blazes burning throughout the summer, creating thick smoke that blew down into the United States, causing health hazards and forcing millions indoors. It reached its peak in early June when New York City was declared to have the worst air quality in the world. A different series of wildfires causing chaos half a world away. Intense winds knocking down power lines on the Hawaiian island of Maui, sparking fires that quickly pushed into the historic town of Lahaina. Folks there had little to no warning as the flames reached the town.
Anybody still out here? It's time to go!
Some were even forced to flee into the ocean. At least 100 people were killed and more than 2,000 buildings destroyed, causing some $6 billion worth of damage.
The office of Speaker of the House of the United States House of Representatives is hereby declared vacant.
Congressional dysfunction reached unprecedented levels in October after Kevin McCarthy became the first House Speaker in history to be voted out in the middle of his term. It happened when McCarthy cut a deal with Democrats to avoid a government shutdown, angering some conservatives who then voted for McCarthy's ouster. It took weeks for Republicans to agree on a new speaker, finally handing the gavel to little-known Louisiana Republican Mike Johnson at the end of the month.
Allahu Akbar!
Israel experienced the deadliest terror attack in its history. More than 1,200 people killed in a surprise cross-border attack by Hamas. The overwhelming majority were civilians, including hundreds attending a music festival. At least 240 others were taken back into the Gaza Strip as hostages. Israel responding with a massive invasion of Gaza. The goal? Destroying Hamas once and for all. The ground offensive was preceded by days of airstrikes that caused thousands of civilian deaths inside Gaza. The war also having repercussions outside of Israel. American military bases across the Middle East attacked dozens of